So, it's been a hot minute since I've talked about the Absolute Universe. My Absolute Batman video, which did pretty well, had a pretty interesting reaction because, I obviously was very biased. I came off very negative towards it, and my thoughts still are the same on it. People responded to it, some were more angry with the response I had, some were just more understanding, some just kind of answered the question that I posed. And in that video, I did mention how Wonder Woman was the one book in the Absolute DC Universe lineup that I genuinely liked all the way through. And so I thought maybe I'll just do a video on this, talk about the one book I do like and why I enjoy it, just give it all the proper glazing, to balance out my more not so subtle negativity when it came to Batman, And I'll give like a quick little rundown of the other Absolute books just to sort of get people to know where my stance is on it. Absolute Superman, I kind of dropped after the first couple of issues. I think it was might have been 3 or 4, maybe 4. It just wasn't really gripping me. I felt a little bit bored and just it's like, okay, I guess this is a thing, and then I just dropped out of it. Green Lantern, I wasn't familiar with what was her name, Jo, I think it was. Apparently she's a new human member of the Green Lantern Corps that came out a couple of years back. I was not familiar with this character, so I had no real connection, and the story just, didn't really hook me in to keep me going, so I dipped out at about issue 3, never really looked at it. Martian Manhunter, I'll be honest, either I'm too stupid to read it, which could be, a good, solution there, or not solution, or I just, or maybe it was just written poorly. I don't know, but it just lost me completely within the first issue, and I just didn't really bother to read whatever came after that because I got so confused that I was like, you know what, I can't do it. Absolute Flash, I kind of keep an eye on. It's pretty okay for me. I have a bit of a better connection with it because I know of Wally, or at least variations of him, so I kind of know what his character is like. I have a better connection with that one. The story seems to be serviceable for me. Beyond that, I don't know. It just does the job. And that's sort of my mindset when it comes to these Absolute Universe titles. For the most part, with the exception of Wonder Woman, I'm either going to think they are just okay to outright bad in the case of Absolute Batman. Now again, this is just my own perspective, my own viewpoint. This is what I feel that they are like to me. I'm not making some broad, general objective statement. I just find that these do not do it for me. And that's kind of it. Now, Absolute Wonder Woman, the one book that I do like genuinely like. I admit it was a bit of a slow start for me because I was like, all right. I at the beginning, I sort of thought that her description they gave when they revealed these Absolute books, how she's a witch of hell and wields all these dark magics and all this stuff. It felt very OC thing. This is your first OC you make, and you make them so edgy and hardcore and powerful. But surprisingly, when it came out, it didn't feel just shock for the sake of shock. It was actually interesting. Her raised by Cersei, a character that was normally depicted as a villain that's always trying to take down Diana, but in this world she is the adoptive mother of Diana, and even in this kind of crazy world with all this stuff going on, hers has the most like optimistic, hopeful tone to it, you know? Like, as Diana is raised in the island that Cersei is trapped in, you know, with all these crazy creatures and whatnot stumbling around in, you know, Diana does not lose that hopefulness, that spark, but she's not naive. She will throw down if necessary. She will risk her life to protect various little critters, you know? It all feels very much like the, you know, the mainline universe Diana, you know? I still feel that heart and soul within her, despite a lot of these more superficial changes. Like, I mean, the design of her is pretty cool. I like that the outfit's more or less the same with some embellishments here or there, different color scheme. The war tattoos, that's a pretty nifty touch. I do like when she's got like the big giant fuck off sword and axes and whatnot. You know, very like Conan Berserk kind of vibe there, but they don't go into that like super duper like fucked up shit that, you know, stuff at least like Berserk would do, you know, for its own stories, you know. And even when, I mean, it's so interesting to me because all it is to boil it down to its most simplistic view, it is you are essentially giving Diana Conan the Barbarian style adventures, you know? Like, okay, she's off on a quest to do this, this, and this, and she's, you know, dealing with all these shenanigans that occur along the way, you know? It's your classic fantasy trope. You know? And I say Conan because that's just sort of the vibe it is, you know? She's trying to find the other Amazons because they have been apparently wiped off from the face of the earth, so much so that they couldn't even say the word Amazon. And something the gods are doing, you know, they're doing some weird shenanigans. We're not sure yet at the time of this recording. And so she's kind of constantly going off on these adventures to try to figure it out. And along the way, she encounters other characters, some that are more familiar to people in the Wonder Woman lore. You know, obviously we get Steve Trevor, Etta Candy. You know, we even get Cheetah, who's only in human form at this point. Although I assume we're probably gonna get her in a monster form at some point, maybe? I don't know. It's very possible. We also get, like, Ferdinand, and, like, you know, some, like, an Io. Like, we are getting into, like, some Wonder Woman characters. Even, like, some villains, like Dr. Poison, or Veronica Cale, Dr. Cyber. You know, we are getting some, like, bad guys, and even some pretty alright, reinterpretations. Like, I actually kind of like that Dr. Poison is basically just, what was his name? Oh, I forget his name. I think it was Klaus from, Hellboy 2, although I could be completely wrong. You know, the guy that's like, he's like a smoky, vapor-like creature, but he's got to stay contained in his, like, you know, little container. Otherwise, it doesn't go out well for him. You know, like, I like that kind of touch, you know? I know this is not structured properly at all, you know? But, what was another thing? Oh, yeah! There was one event pretty early on in the comic that some, like, content creators tried to, like, say was some sort of, disabled allegory or whatnot, completely negating the reasoning for what happened. Was Diana cutting off her own arm. They wanted to say that was some, like, oh, it's meant to represent disabled people. It's like, no, it wasn't. Because in the actual context of the story, Diana was trying to ensure that Steve Trevor can get off the island that her and her mother are on. But the spell required a sacrifice. So Diana chops off her own arm to fulfill the sacrifice in order for Steve Trevor to get out of the island. And she, you know, actually grows her arm back with some magic. And she even does it again in the book, you know, to showcase it. You know, it's not meant to be, oh, it's disabled representation. It's like, no, it wasn't that. You know, like there was a logistical reason for it, and it's very in character for Diana. And I think that's why I really like it. It's like, even if, like, on the surface you would think, oh, she's like this hardcore, super brutal one that's gonna kill everybody and, you know, not gonna be nice, but that's the opposite of it, really. Like, oh, she can throw down with monsters and, you know, other people and have cool fight scenes and everything, but she's not bloodthirsty. She's very much she would like to resolve things peacefully if possible, but she will throw down if she is forced to. She will kill someone if it comes to it, you know? She doesn't just kill willy-nilly. She doesn't just maim willy-nilly, even if it's a eldritch creature from her deepest, darkest nightmare. She tries to, you know, make it work. She tries to, like, appease, you know? She's very friendly, you know? And even when she's, like, trying to get help, whatnot, there's, like, a moment very early on, I think it's, like, in the 3rd or 4th issue, maybe the 2nd issue, she's, like, trying to make a spell to stop the effect that this scary monster is going to have on civilians. And there's a camera crew there, and she's like, hey, can you let me get my message out there so I could tell them, the city, to not panic? And also, don't show this magic thing I'm gonna do. And they're like, why? And she's like, well, it's because magic gets abused a lot, and it just wouldn't be right. And the reporters are like, oh yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense, you know? And it was like a nice touch. It could have went so worse. Like, they could have done so much to make that, like, make her come off as a rude person, be like, oh, well, men abuse it. It's like, no, she just goes like, hey, magic gets abused a lot by people, and we need to, like, you know, I just want to make sure that it's used by the proper people and all that, you know? But yeah, and honestly, I just kind of like, maybe it's the reason I really like Absolute Wonder Woman is because it's still core Diana with it. It's like, she is very hopeful, she's very diplomatic, she wants to be friends, she wants there to be some peace and unity between everybody, you know, she wants to do that, but she knows that if it comes down to it, you gotta throw down, you gotta throw hands, and she is willing to do that. I mean, her quest is just, she's trying to find her Amazonian sisters and her birth mother. She's trying to do that, you know, but even with all that, she is willing to stop all that to help other people, to protect people, you know? She is a protector of the world, you know? And that's just kind of why I really like it, you know? And it's why it's like the difference between that and like Absolute Batman, where I don't feel like that version of Batman really has the core aspects of what I think Batman should be. And it just feels like a completely different character, you know? And one might say, oh, well, isn't that the point? Because they are alternate universe counterparts. Like, shouldn't they be different from their main line? It's like, sure, in a sense, but I feel like if you're trying to do this alternate take, they should still be, at least in the core aspect of it, they should represent the core values, the core characteristics of these characters, despite the scenario changes, despite the, you know, the redesigns or whatnot, the flourishes. You know, it's kind of like with the Red Sun Superman, you know, that kind of thing. It's like, despite where he grew up in his upbringing, he was still Superman. He still upheld the ideals of Superman, despite it being a tweaked version due to where he grew up in Russia instead of the United States. You know, he still was Superman. Absolute Wonder Woman is still Wonder Woman. Batman, not so much, but I made my video on that, so I'm just gonna end it there. But yeah, like, I don't know. This is just me babbling and glazing absolute Wonder Woman, and just trying to, I don't know, maybe I'm just gonna offer up a question to this, I know I'm 15 minutes in and I'm only gonna ask the question now, but like, do you like absolute Wonder Woman? Like, if you do, I'd like to, hear that down in the comment section below. Let's have a conversation about that. Like, what's your favorite parts about it? Like, what makes you like it? Or if you don't like it, well, tell me. I mean, I know I said I didn't like Absolute Batman, and people, were ready to talk to me about that. So let's have that. Like, we can have that discussion, as long as it's chill and friendly, Like, if you don't like it, like, hey, why do you not like it, Is it, like, something to do with the art? Is it the style? I don't know. But let's have that down in the comment section below. And with that being said, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you all for coming along on this little babbling adventure we have. Thank you for watching. Also, if you want me to talk about anything else in the superhero comic book realm, please leave it down in the comment section below. I actually like reading the comments. And with that being said, goodbye.